And welcome to the breakout session for Cloud Architecture Summit. This is the session for Software AG, and let me welcome back Mike Dorham, Senior Director for Architecture in the Integration Practice at Software AG. Mike, welcome.
Thank you very much for that. Glad to be here.
You know, we're really glad to have Mike with us too. He's spent 20 years helping the world's most complex companies integrate to innovate, and he's going to share some of his expertise with us today. And the tasks that he has helped companies with are probably overlapping some of your to-do agenda. Update your legacy application, connect disparate apps and data from on-prem and cloud, and even explore how to best integrate and work with cloud-native apps and microservices. He's going to bring all that together in his session, The Power of a Unified Platform for Hybrid Integration, API Management, and B2B, where he's going to talk about the evolution of integration for apps and data and how they converge with all these changes we're seeing in cloud. Before I hand it to Mike, just let me quickly remind you, you can get his slides, and I highly recommend you do. They are really meaty. Just hit that big red button under the view screen, and you can get them right away. No extra registration required. We've also got some other great assets available for you. Just click those assets for either analyst reports, white papers, other great technical material. Also, again, no registration. You did that with us to enter the show today. And we love to make this interactive, so if you have any questions or comments for Mike, just type in the question box. So with all that, Mike, let me hand it to you and tell us about the power of a unified platform for hybrid integration, API management, and B2B.
All right, thank you very much for that introduction. I really appreciate it. So as my experience with Software AG customers and webMethods customers previous to that, it is very important to understand the business challenges that the organizations that we interact with had from an integration standpoint over the years. And so 70% of the global companies run their businesses on Software AG technology. And primarily, we're looking at integration technology and we're looking at API technology as the leaders in the space since 1997. And we're focusing a lot today on developers, and as those developers are interacting with our technology and the challenges that those developers would have as they migrate to the cloud and they adopt cloud technologies. And so this list of customers, this is incredibly important to discuss because the requirements of these existing customers, integration customers, and how they are adopting cloud architectures and how they're migrating some of their business systems to the cloud drives our product roadmap. It drives the requirements that end up in our technology. And it's incredibly important to note, not just these global customers, but some of the small to medium enterprise customers, small business, and so forth, that are really starting to adopt cloud technologies. And so the statement that's made here is that multiple clouds exist in the majority of organizations today. And I like to tell the story about my company, and I like to tell the story about Software AG and its multi-cloud. And we are a product company. We develop a product. We are transforming our internal business to move to the cloud. And we've taken a look at the challenges, very, very similar to the way that our clients, prospects, and partners look at those problems today. And as you can see, a multi-cloud strategy is incredibly important. And the conversations that we have here at Software AG with our customers is based on where are they today in this strategy, what are they planning in the near term for that strategy, and where do they want to end up. And so to be able to really discuss hybrid integration, we'll talk about the integration challenge associated with a multi-cloud architecture. And so the example that is here is that it's not just SaaS integration. It's not just being able to integrate applications that are running natively in the public cloud, but it's to be able to provide a unified approach to being able to address the challenges of today and the challenges of 2020 and beyond. And so the Software AG solution from a hybrid standpoint is, of course, going to include the on-premise application data integration and, of course, the back-end leverage of the systems that will remain in play on-premise for the near term, and then to be able to present an API-first approach or API management for those particular assets as they move up into cloud architectures. And the way that we like to describe this solution, this unified solution of B2B and API and core integration, is connectivity from the app to the edge. And so what our customers have told us over the years with the relationship that we've established with them is that two things really drive what their drivers are for integration. And the two of those most important things is to be able to deploy new capabilities faster regardless of the marketplace vertical and regardless of what industry and or business that they're in, they need to remain competitive. And they need to be able to have agility in those architectures to be able to take advantage of the data that is surfaced through SaaS applications and through deploying in the public cloud and of course a private cloud as well, to be able to bring that data together. The silos of data in today's multi-cloud world are equally as challenging in the silos of data that we addressed in years past on-premise. And so the change is that we really want our customers to have an idea of what their microservices and or cloud deployment roadmap is. It's a conversation that we have on a regular basis because they need to be able to scale with these modern cloud architectures. They need to be able to serve their customers and they need to be able to get changes into their applications. They need to be able to address their IoT needs if they have them, and they need to be able to do it quickly. And if they don't have a cloud deployment and or a migration strategy, it's time for us to be able to help them establish that. And so from a digital business model, in our point of view is to continue to leverage the investment in the applications, the business applications or the platforms, and have a roadmap to be able to get to the cloud and to be able to provide a B2B framework, an e-commerce framework that we're calling B2B 2020 and beyond. And then lastly is to be able to do it fast. And we'll cover this in this example within our technology, is how can we enable our customers to get these changes and to get these features and to get these capabilities in the hands or in the eyes of their clients and their partners quickly. And so cloud deployment and DevOps, CI/CD, is incredibly important. And we'll cover that here in just a few moments. And so the webMethods platform, we focus on a unified single runtime for the entire span of integrations. And so when it comes to integration server and or connectors, the server components and the runtime components, the administrative, all those components are unified. Multi-cloud, private cloud, working in the data center, mobile apps and so forth is a single runtime. And I think from a developer standpoint or from a development management standpoint or cloud operations standpoint is to be able to reduce the complexity of your integrations have got to be paramount. To be able to help our customers get not just their business applications up into the cloud, but to give them a fast track for capabilities into the cloud. And so what we provide our current customers that have our existing technology is the ability to lift and shift the actual product from an integration standpoint, but also the capabilities and the problem that it solved very, very quickly to the cloud. Next-gen architecture is today. And every organization that we talk to has a microservices and or DevOps program. And so they really need to see through the eyes of their integration vendor, how easy is it to adopt that next-gen integration architecture, and I use 2020 and beyond, to be able to establish microservices and to be able to establish CI/CD and DevOps within a unified platform. And then lastly, in this example, is the advancements in B2B, which is necessary, and e-commerce, which is necessary in today's cloud architectures. And I'll speak a little bit about what we are focusing on, with input, of course, from the analyst community and from our customers, is to help them modernize the B2B, or if we could use the term EDI, which I know that a lot of you folks are familiar with, to be able to go into more of an API-driven B2B architecture. And we're helping our customers establish that around the globe. The importance of the influence of our analysts is something that is incredibly important to me. And my team, my technical team, works with the folks here at Software AG to be able to provide the evidence to the analysts that our solutions are able to remain the absolute leaders, and then in the leaders quadrant or in these waves, it's incredibly important. Our customers provide us feedback for the platform, the analysts provide us feedback for the platform, and from an evaluation standpoint, it benefits the marketplace to be able to see, for instance, the leading vendors here. And then when it comes to the proof phase of the technology is that they're able to get all of their requirements and or questions addressed. It's something that's a little bit unique in the Software AG/webMethods environment. Connectivity is still one of the most important requirements that we hear. And what type of connectivity? Do you have an adapter for this? Do you have a connector for another application? We provide over 300 connectors and or adapters from the mainframe to the edge. And I think a major differentiator for the Software AG platform is those are provided at the beginning of the engagement or at the beginning of the relationship that we have with our customers. So if they decide that they need to implement, if they decide that they need to test, if there is a technology connector or adapter, it is available to them. The days of Java-based client-led adapters in the on-premise has changed dramatically. Secondly, is that the scalable architecture. And this is based on microservices and based on micro gateways. And so we're not going to focus too much today on the API gateway, but the ability to be able to spin up very, very quick, very, very compact micro gateways is a requirement that our larger transactional customers were very, very interested in. And to be able to test those and be able to test the connectivity and the transaction volume with resilient services across our entire unified platform, which addresses API management, addresses B2B, and addresses IoT connectivity as well. Being able to build once and deploy across multiple clouds or multiple environments is a very important consideration, is having this unified development environment, unified testing environment, and to have secure access to the data in apps while we're testing, and to be able to deploy that and or incrementally adopt certain services or certain features that are in the cloud is a very high requirement that our customers have presented to us. And so as I get into the details of the platform and best practices that we've established, again, from feedback from our customers, is that ease of development, ease of testing, and ease of deployment is at the very top. We want the power developers to be able to have quick access at their fingertips to be able to create these orchestrations and build them from what we're referring to as recipes. And the majority of the conversations, our customers want to know, how fast can I get started? Can you provide me a series of templates? Can you provide me a series of any way to be able to get my technology into this environment quickly? Recipes do it. The 300 plus connectors do it. Lightweight messaging, and then having the entire unified solution in memory enabled across clouds, on-premise, is another key issue for our platform. Because what we do not want our customers and partners to have to worry about is worry about memory management of their integrations. Worry about memory pipeline issues, thread hang issues. With an in-memory enabled unified API and integration platform, we take that off the table for them. This is just a brief list of what we provide from the IoT standpoint, adapters, knee standards, cloud, and of course, big data that are provided by Software AG out of the box and available upon implementation. And one thing that we have established over the years is that we want to have that entire library available to our clients from day one. We don't want to make it a licensable opportunity. We don't want any of this capability to be lost and with a licensed transaction standing in front of it. And this has been widely accepted and very important for us growing license revenue. So as we go back to the developer's point of view, is that we want to have an iPaaS platform really for professional developers, or maybe we would say API architects or cloud developers, is to be able to develop and then deploy very, very quickly to the cloud if necessary, to be able to automatically upgrade, fix, and patch what is sitting on-premise or what might be sitting in a private and or public cloud. And then have the actual monitoring available at a role-based level for the folks that are really interested in certain levels of the data. And of course, at a developer level, it could be monitoring from a transaction standpoint and a response time standpoint. Take it up to a business level, whereas we might want to see how an application that's driven by APIs is performing. And then maybe even at a higher level, from an executive level, from a dashboard standpoint, to be able to see what is happening across that unified platform. And again, to touch on microservices and to touch on containerization, the requirement has very, very rapidly become near term. It's today. Several years ago, when our customers had established a microservices and/or containerization roadmap, it's to the point where our products and the integrations and capabilities that we provide are now being put into production in these containerization runtimes. And again, developing service interfaces, and integration orchestrations, and deploying them into a compute node, or creating that capability and deploying it into a container. So it falls back on the example of develop and design once and test once, and then obviously deploy in multiple different runtime examples. Our customers are still moving data and are still moving files. And it's, again, important for our customers to be able to utilize APIs and to be able to utilize the standards associated with APIs to be able to move this type of data around their organization and outside the organization. We have a major focus at Software AG moving forward is to automate the process that was associated with legacy EDI transactions, EDI document exchange, and be able to move that into an API first and API driven B2B support. And so what this does is it reduces the amount of time to onboard business partners, to be able to get those business partners communicating, to be able to establish really, really streamlined rules for the processing of these invoices or processing of these POs, and for these organizations to move away from the legacy platforms that they've established, these EDI gateways and these EDI transformation technology up into the cloud. An incredibly important process for us here at Software AG. So as we move ahead in the presentation, an example of how folks are using this hybrid integration is a global pharmacy and a global retailer associated pharmacy. The merger and acquisition of two major global chains presented them with a challenge that they needed to take 13,000 plus stores and get them into a mission critical enterprise architecture where they're sharing data, they've broken down the silos of data, and they're utilizing their Amazon platform to be able to make this happen faster. And so the supply chain aspects, the B2B aspects, and the inventory processing aspects from the warehouse to 3PLs to the actual trucking and so forth is managed in a hybrid environment using our technology. And of course, the next slide is EDI transactions being managed in a hybrid environment for one of the world's leading search engine providers. And we sometimes don't think of these type of technology companies as having the need for communicating with their vendors, onboarding their partners, but it was hypercritical that they provide that technology in their cloud. And so our technology for onboarding partners, we went from several months to several hours. And so the time frame associated with making those partners productive was all based on our technology sitting in this particular vendor's cloud and making that information and onboarding just very, very fast for their customers. So what we want to be able to do is get the technology that I talked about today in the hands of our developers and in the hands of our partners. And so what we wanted to make sure is that when organizations are evaluating technology, they're to the point where they're starting to look at the platforms or they're documenting the requirements and so forth. We want to make sure that we give them access to three most important things. The first thing is the analyst report. We want them to have access to the IP associated with making the right decision for the right platform at the right time. That's number one. That's counsel. Number two is the technology. And to be able to get hands on the technology, be able to feel the technology, develop in the technology, test in that technology, and feel the power of that technology on an unlimited, unified platform for 30 days or an extension of those 30 days. So the second piece is the technology. And the third piece is the people, is to have access to folks that can describe how we've implemented the technology or how they've implemented the technology, what challenges that they run into, what were the ROI associated with actually testing out those platforms and getting feedback about where they are in their either cloud migration journeys or the challenges that are associated with multi-cloud integration. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes my formal presentation. I'd like to hand it back over to Vance to see if there are any questions that I can address.
Mike, what a great session. You really put a lot of context into the new 2019 projects that the cloud takes up a lot of attention and skill, and really revealed how integration can play a very helpful role in achieving success with many of these that I think maybe folks may have overlooked. A really terrific session.
Thank you very much, Vance.
You know, Mike, it really was a great collection of kind of power of how Software AG has put together a unified platform that lets a lot of these new digital transformation initiatives kind of all center around easy access to integration. For folks that may overlook that integration can play such a big role in all of these deliverables, talk a little bit about the architecture and how you're even making it maybe easier and more repeatable if folks would step back before a big data project or an IoT or a CI/CD project and say, now, what role could integration play here?
That's a very important point. And whether it's the cloud operations team, the development team, or the business systems teams in organizations, to be able to document the requirements for these very, very large projects. And making integration or the methodology associated with integration at the beginning of these projects will allow them to have a more flexible and a more rapid choice of solutions in how they actually implement this technology at the right time. If integration for multi-cloud is an afterthought of projects, then what we're doing is sometimes adapting the integration architecture to match the deployment options that our customers have. And sometimes that can be costly, and it kind of takes away the flexibility of what a solution can offer.
You know, it's a great conversation because one of the reasons it prompted me to ask kind of a big picture question for you is we did get a note here. A lot of our team can see the benefit in this kind of integration for the projects we're working on. Does the Software AG platform come with patterns or some sort of guided wizards that would help us implement for the different projects we work on?
There is, and it's another important point to be able to get productive and really in any software platform, particularly an integration platform, quickly. And so through the idea of what we refer to as recipes, and think of a technical recipe the same way that you would think of just a recipe, is to provide the connectivity already established, to be able to provide the mapping, the transformation already established, whereas the folks that are working in our platform are primarily at a higher level API and or analyst level. And I think, Vance, we do refer to that as citizen integrators in a lot of circles. And the idea is to provide that interface for that individual. And if there's more heavy lifting, or if there is more complex integration or different integration types, those patterns can be addressed very, very easily by our internal services group and or our partners.
Excellent, excellent. You know, if we could, I'd like to drill down on a couple of specific implementation questions. I mean, you guys apparently have so much capability under one hood, so to speak. One of them has this. Can the speaker talk about how Software AG can help us modernize or connect our legacy systems with more loosely coupled resources in the cloud, especially with microservices? We're finding it a little difficult to do that and still maintain our SLAs and others' performance integrity.
And that is, again, a very, very good question. So the approach that we take with our platform, as I had mentioned, 300 plus connectors, there is a very large group of those connectors that are on-premise connectors. Connectivity with legacy applications, with mainframe applications, mid-range, AS400, whether it be Teradata, whether you saw that there was a number of big data or Hadoop-style connectivity offered as well. Because being able to leverage those applications and the investment of those applications will be critical as the migration actually occurs. And it's the heritage of Software AG with mainframe connectivity and the heritage of webMethods for application connectivity that makes it a very, very good choice.
And just to quickly drill down on that, you mentioned some great customer examples. Is there anything in the work you're doing in the last several months, Mike, that would show that this kind of pattern is becoming more and more common as folks become more confident in the cloud? And maybe share a little insight of what you're hearing most recently.
Absolutely. I would say it really rotates or really pivots on the adoption of containerization. and the technology associated with managing and orchestrating and the choreography of those containers. Is traditional integration, or let's say the integration of the 90s and the integration of middleware designs, is not appropriate for migrating and or running in the cloud. And so our current customers that have massively parallel implementations of our webMethods technology have very easily been able to adopt and adapt what they have in those integration platforms, wrap them into images, and actually run them either in our Docker containerization or our microservices runtime, or the runtimes associated with their public and private clouds. And so we're seeing that on a pretty regular basis. And it's all driven by the cost that's associated with maintaining those on-premise applications and those on-premise systems. From the cost of the software, the cost of the maintenance of the software, the cost of the hardware, and the cost of the resources that are associated with maintaining it. So that seems to be a pretty common theme that we see across the board.
Oh, that's a great answer. In fact, here's something that's somewhat related, I think. And a lot of folks are also grappling with this idea of adopting DevOps the best or most efficient way. And the question here says, is there any way that we could leverage the Software AG hybrid platform to help our developers and ops team work more closely together? At present, we seem to have many different tools and they don't always communicate with each other.
The automation of testing in any environment is a challenge. And so with what we provide with our DevOps solution is a CI/CD framework that we make the options for testing, the option for the creation of scripts, and the actual execution of those environments available in recipes, just like that I described when it comes to the raw integrations. Because again, what we're seeing is that we want common approaches for testing the integrations as they would have common approaches of testing other capabilities within their development teams. They want to be able to be responsive. They want to be able to get this capability into and or upgrade it to new versions or new environments very, very fast. And another thing that I'm seeing is an API-driven economy. And whether it's our retail customer base or whether it's our manufacturing or our energy customer base, is that they're using the ability of APIs or the core capability of APIs to be able to communicate with their partners and with their customers much, much more efficiently. So what we've been seeing, as opposed to the past of having C# and or Java developers, we're seeing API architects and we're seeing API solution folks in the organizations that are just working in APIs. And so the skill set associated with what they're doing will enable them to work not just in an integration platform and or a B2B platform, but the value of that skill set across major organizations is really key. And so what we have to be able to do is ensure that we can very, very quickly establish the integrations and then API enable the capability that might be sitting in a back-end business system hooked up to, let's say, an SAP or an ERP system, and then getting input from others to be able to make that, wrap that capability around and make that available as an API. And these folks in these organizations are just, use this term loosely, they're wiring APIs together and creating really, really fast business value for their organizations.
Wow, that's a great picture you paint there, because I know a lot of attendees here are very familiar with APIs from not just the iPaaS days, but using APIs to do all sorts of connections and interfaces to the cloud and on-premise, so that you're extending the ROI, so to speak, from that skill in the platform is really fantastic. Mike, I see we're just about out of time, but I just can't help but visit back your architectural skill and the whole vision that you gave us in our session this morning. The proposition that Software AG seems to have done by combining a unified runtime and design time with all these tools and capabilities running on top seems like a very well thought out architectural pattern for the next gen of cloud here. I wonder if you could give us a little comment on what your thinking went into that and what the benefits that customers are seeing.
Absolutely. So unification of these integration platforms is, again, hypercritical to Software AG and to this platform. And so some of the advantages of having this unified platform, again, is the reduction in cost associated with having expertise in development that is siloed. With domain-driven design or demand-driven design, we might have analysts or API experts that are responsible for the data that's going to be pushed into API messaging, or it's going to be pushed up into file transfers, whatever it might be. So having that unified platform takes a lot of the overhead associated with administering 3, 4, or 5 different integration solutions, and which really, some of the folks in the analyst community have said that there are integration challenges with the integration solutions. And so we believe this unified pattern or this unified platform eliminates that challenge and makes our customers productive much faster across those different integration patterns or those integration flavors.
That's great. That's great. So much thought going in here. I got a few comments here too from the attendees. I wonder if you could tell us the next steps. It just seems as though folks would also certainly like, as you mentioned, to get a handle on the analyst reports and the other assets that you and your team have brought. But is there a way folks could go hands-on or maybe even get a custom demo of all that you've got on offer?
Absolutely. As you can see here, we want our customers and our prospects to be able to get their hands on the technology. softwareag.com cloud will give them the opportunity to very, very quickly and anonymously get access to this technology. And of course, we're notified of this, and then we can, make contact when necessary and to make sure that the hands-on phase of the evaluation is successful. Analyst reports will be available for a number of different, I believe that they'll be available within this portal, and they're available at the softwareag.com website, very clearly marked. And there are a number of other abilities to download the executables for our technology, to install the technology on premise, and really get a feel for the power of what this platform can do.
Fantastic. I love having options. That's one of the things we really love here at the Cloud Architecture Summit. Mike Durham, Senior Director for Architecture in the Software AG Integration Practice. Thanks very much for a really compelling session. Great look at the technology, and we always love use cases, and what a powerful Q&A. Appreciate your time.
Thank you very much, Vance. Cheers, everyone.
And as we love to do here at the Cloud Architecture Summit, we do want to make sure that we give you the leave behind you need for the next sort of decision making in your cycle. Mike mentioned some terrific assets. We've got those listed here, including the click-through to be able to sign up and get your hands on the Software AG hybrid integration platform. But as you might expect from Mike's presentation, we ran out of room here. There's so much more to talk about. So here's a slide that'll take you directly to the Software AG website to get some other rich and informative resources. The links on this slide will be live when you download Mike's slides. Thanks again, everyone.